When I received my husband's late-stage cancer report, my steps were unsteady, and I didn't even know how I made it back home. Today is a holiday, my aunt has a day off, my daughter is at my parents' house, and my husband is a workaholic. No matter if it's day or night, windy or raining, he never puts down the company's affairs. So I chose to go home and digest this matter alone. Ethan Sue, Cynthia Cheen, is it interesting for me to be in bed with you? A captivating voice rang out. I was startled, and the original dazed and confused state finally came to its senses. A voice I am very familiar with then resounded. Oh, she is very boring. If it were not for the fact that she is still somewhat obedient, I would have divorced her long ago. That voice, it is my husband of 7 years. The raging anger had burned my brain to the point of irrationality, and I quickly found the room from which the voice was coming. Bang! I forcibly kicked open the door, and inside, 2 people were lying on our bed. After seeing the face, I pointed at the woman curled up in my husband's arms and could not utter a single word. The person lying on the bed is my close friend of over a decade and my husband of 7 years. The double blow made my legs start to weaken, and I could only lean on the doorframe to relieve the pressure on my body. Ethan Sue and Wendy Seong had different expressions on their faces when they saw me. The scattered clothes and the permeating odor in the air are all the proof I need that I've been cheated on. Cynthia Cheen, let me tell you, the situation is not like that, Ethan Sue nervously said to me, his eyes full of panic, as he tried to push Wendy Seong away from his embrace, but Wendy Seong clung tightly to Ethan Sue's neck, looking up at me with a defiant expression. Dear sister, your husband tastes really good. For the sake of our many years of friendship, please fulfill our wish. I did not respond. I turned to look at Ethan Sue. Ethan Sue saw that he could not push Wendy Seong away and did not move either. With his head lowered, he looked like he did not dare to face it. My heart is filled with sorrow, for it seems that after 7 years of our relationship, he cannot even offer an explanation. I ran my fingers over the report, suddenly having an idea. I hid the report deep behind me, coldly watching this dog man and woman, then pulled out a smile. This man is for you. You guys play slowly, I won't disturb you. He slammed the door and left. I have not returned to that house since, and whenever I think of the scene that day, I wish I could immediately murder those 2 people. These days I have been staying at my parents' house. Normally I am busy with work and family and have very little time to accompany my parents. Seeing me by their side, my parents are very happy. I am the only child of the Cheen family, and Ethan Sue is my college classmate. We have been in love for 3 years and have been married for 7 years, and together we have raised a lovely daughter, Vivian Sue. Our love has always been a model example during the university period. They say that graduation season is also breakup season, but we have walked smoothly to marriage, and many of our classmates envy me, saying that I have found a good husband. Ethan Sue has always been the ideal son-in-law in my parents' eyes. Normally, whenever I come here, no matter how busy he is, he always comes to pick me up, but this time, when he has been out of sight for several days, my parents couldn't help but ask about it. Cynthia Cheen, why haven't you been seeing Ethan Sue picking you up recently? If you 2 have had a disagreement, tell your father. Your father will definitely not let him off the hook. I look at the white hair on my father's temples, and my heart is filled with bitterness. I cannot tell my parents about Ethan Sue's situation, first because Ethan Sue is currently the most powerful person in the family's company, and second because my parents are old and I fear they would not be able to handle the sudden, unexpected news. The most important thing is, I haven't made him pay the price. How can I just let him go? He's been busy with work lately. Dad, you don't need to worry. How dare he bully me? You know I has always been a workaholic. I smiled, trying my best to appear normal. The 2 elderly persons were finally relieved upon receiving my answer. It's time to pick up my daughter, so I picked up the car keys and prepared to go to the kindergarten. I quickly approached the preschool where my daughter was, and saw 2 people standing in front of her. The daughter looked at the 2 people in front of her with a lack of interest. She was not very close to her father, as he was usually busy, and it was her mother who picked her up. This time another strange aunt appeared in front of us. My daughter has not seen Wendy Xiang since she can remember, so she does not recognize her. My daughter furrowed her little brows, lost in thought. Approaching them, it was indeed Ethan Su and Wendy Xiang. I was immediately infuriated. These past few days, Ethan Su has been bombarding me on various social media platforms, trying to explain himself, but I have blocked him completely. He had thought about coming to my parents' house to find me, but I threatened him that if he dared to come, I would make his affair public knowledge. Ethan Su is a shameless person. I just didn't expect him to bring Wendy Xiang to block my daughter. As soon as my daughter saw me, her big eyes crescent-shaped, she came running towards me. I steadily caught my daughter, and the two of them also came in front of me. This is the peak time for school dismissal, and many parents are looking at us with curiosity. Some of the mothers of the children who are close to me have greeted me, asking what happened. I smiled and said, "No problem, I got stuck with adhesive bandage." In our 7 years of marriage, Ethan Su and I have barely had contact with our daughter, so much so that I can count the number of times on one hand. It's remarkable that he can even find our daughter's school, which is why the other parents don't know he's my husband. Previously I generally understood his being busy with work, but now I think he really doesn't care at all. "Vivian, would you like a hug from Daddy?" Ethan Su smiled with a loving expression, as if he had not noticed my mocking gaze. As for Wendy Xiang, if it weren't for Ethan Su buying her a bag and some jewelry, she wouldn't have bothered to come explain anything. The daughter did not respond to Ethan Su, her small head buried in my embrace, leaving only the back of her head facing him. As more and more parents come to pick up their children, I don't want the family's private matters to affect my daughter's mood for going to school. "Let's talk in a place where no one is around," I said softly. "Private room in the cafe." "Divorce? I don't agree." Ethan Su stood up abruptly, realizing his mistake. He calmed his tone and sat down, continuing, "Cynthia Chin, we have been husband and wife for so many years, why have we come to this?" Fortunately, I was able to send my daughter to her grandparents' home, otherwise she might have been frightened to see her usually gentle and restrained father in this state. Wendy Xiang took an unconventional approach and proactively held my hand. "Cynthia Chin, since you two no longer have any feelings for each other, divorce is the best choice," she said, casting a suggestive glance at Ethan Su. "Furthermore, Yaij and I have been mutually fond of each other." Ethan Su clutched his head, saying in a pained expression, "Shut up." He now really regrets letting Wendy Xiang come with him, otherwise Cynthia Chin would not have said the divorce talk. He originally wanted Wendy Xiang to come along to explain, but now it seems this woman never had that intention. I abruptly withdrew my hand, resting my chin and calmly watching the two before me bickering. Ethan Su had not been there for long when he pulled Wendy Xiang to leave. "Cynthia Chin, I'll talk to you later, but I don't agree to the divorce." After the two left, the spacious private room was left with only me. I chuckled self-mockingly, and couldn't help but recall the time when I first met her. When I was a freshman, Wendy Xiang and I were not in the same school, but at least we were in the same city. Because my finance studies keep me busy, Wendy Xiang, who studies performing arts, has much more free time than I do. I and Ethan Su got to know each other under her witness. After class, Wendy Xiang came to find me. To get to the cafeteria faster than others, we took a shortcut through the basketball court. It was then that I was suddenly hit on the head by a basketball falling from the sky, and I passed out from the violent impact. Upon opening my eyes, I saw Wendy Xiang crying in front of my bed, and there was a gentle-looking boy on the other side. After learning that we were in the same major, my relationship with Ethan Su became closer and closer, and it was Wendy Xiang who introduced us. When exactly did the two of them start being together? The company Ethan Su works at is my family's. At the time, my father was unable to manage the company due to health reasons, and Ethan Su was the son-in-law he had high hopes for, so Ethan Su firmly established himself in my family's company. However, my father does not fully trust him either, and I am still the largest shareholder of the company. I'm extremely grateful for this now, and at the time I even got into an argument with my parents over their lack of trust in Ethan Su. Now thinking about it, I really don't know which brain cell wasn't wired right at the time. Love is really harmful. Hello, Sister Chin. The receptionist at the company looked at me in surprise, wondering how long it had been since they last saw the chairperson's wife. I nodded and walked to my office in a professional suit. I don't come to the office every day because my parents are old and Ethan Sue's parents live in the countryside, so I have an aunt come to take care of my daughter, but I'm always worried about her. It's time to clean up the company's accounts properly. It hadn't been long before it was time for the meeting. The theme of this meeting is the selection of brand ambassadors. I glanced at the people across from me, and I realized that I no longer recognize half of the company elders across from me. I looked up and saw Ethan Sue's seat, and I was secretly startled. My family has raised a voracious wolf that eats people without spitting out the bones. Ethan Sue was dressed in a professional suit, his hair neatly combed, with a pair of glasses perched on his prominent nose, exuding an air of authority. He looked at me, a trace of surprise in his eyes. The content of the meeting was to finalize the spokesperson for the launch of this new product. After a series of plans, Ethan Sue finally nodded and said that the theme of this meeting was officially decided to be the endorsement of our company's personal care line spokesperson, Wendy Xiang. He unconsciously looked at me after saying that, and if I hadn't come today, this matter would have been settled. Wendy Xiang is currently making her debut in the film and television industry, having played a few well-designed supporting roles. Although she doesn't have many die-hard fans, she does have a good reputation among the general public. Selecting her is not unreasonable, but there are many such people in the entertainment industry. I don't believe that Ethan Sue doesn't have any personal motives. I did not refute this proposal, and after receiving the report card last time, the doctor called me again to arrange a detailed discussion. My agonizing appearance made the doctor feel sympathy for me. He sighed and patted my shoulder, gently telling me that the patient should maintain a good mood and a healthy diet. Late-stage gastric cancer is currently beyond the capability of medical treatment. To pretend to be in pain was also mixed with a touch of sincerity, but this touch of sincerity was worn out after various events. I told the doctor not to tell my husband about this matter, as I hope he will maintain a positive attitude. The doctor has seen countless patients, and naturally knows that some patients have no real illness but become deeply worried after learning of their condition, and then their condition deteriorates and they pass away. He nodded to indicate his understanding. When I saw Ethan Sue come home from a social engagement, I kept complaining about stomach aches, so I persuaded him to go to the hospital for a checkup. Ethan Sue insisted that he was young and didn't need it, as he was always self-assured, but I still forcibly dragged him to a private hospital. Probably he even forgot when he had a checkup, let alone inquire about his own condition. The meeting ended, and Ethan Sue had the secretary call me to his office. I have the same intention, Cynthia Chin. The endorsement was not my proposal, but was finalized after a thorough selection process across departments. I hope you do not misunderstand. The spacious office was left with just the two of us. Ethan Sue's tone was filled with great caution. I calmly took a sip of my tea without changing my expression. Ethan Sue heaved a sigh of relief. No matter what happened, as long as he was willing to humble himself and coax his wife, everything would still have hope. After that incident last time, I really regret it, my wife, I really regret it. I know it's too late to say anything now. You've been ignoring my messages and not letting me go to my parents' house to pick you up. I really can't take it anymore, so I went to our daughter's kindergarten with her to explain everything to you. I didn't expect, Ethan Sue said here with a slightly choked voice. I finally looked up at him, and Ethan Sue's eyes were bloodshot, his face full of guilt and pain, staring at me without blinking. If it weren't for the infidelity, I think I would have forgiven him by now, just as I had done before. The stage is almost set, it's time for me to act, otherwise how can this play go on? Honey, I truly love you. I cannot accept that my best friend did this to you. Tears slid down from the corners of my eyes, and I painfully covered my face, my frail shoulders shuddering with sobs, eliciting pity. Ethan Sue unhesitatingly embraced me, gently patting my back while firmly saying, "My dear, I swear I will never do anything to hurt you again, and if I do, may I not have a good death. Honey, I really don't feel safe when you act this way. I feel like you are so far away from me, and I can't seem to grasp you. Maybe it's better if we just separate. With the divorce I mentioned last time in the coffee shop, Ethan Su is even less willing to hear such words a second time. If they divorced, he would only get a small portion of the shares he held, and his identity as the ruler of the Qin family would no longer exist. Over the years, Ethan Su has gone from being a smart person to a shrewd businessman. How can he not understand? How is it? How can you trust me? I have completely cut ties with Wendy Xiang, Cynthia Qin. I really know I was wrong. Ethan Su looked at me with a pleading expression, begging me. We had such a wonderful relationship before. Could you please give me one more chance? We still have Vivian Su. How can you let Vivian Su grow up without a father? I raised my tear-filled eyes and looked at Ethan Su. My husband, please give me half of your shares, only then can I trust you. I don't want Vivian Su to be without a father, but I have no other choice. This is the only way I can be at peace. Sure, here is the translation. Indeed, upon hearing the word shares, Ethan Su's face stiffened. I seized the opportunity and continued, darling, our entire Qin family is under your control. Father has given you authority for so many years now. I don't understand anything about the company's affairs, and I'm afraid you will leave me, darling. I can only do this, so I can be at ease. My words deeply pleased Ethan Su. From the countryside, he studied hard to reach the city, and at a young age, he has already become the president of a listed company. I have long been his possession in his heart, and what happened these past few days were just a bit of temper tantrum for him. Of course, the most important thing is that I'm afraid I'll choose to get a divorce in a fit of anger. So Ethan Su nodded and agreed. The Qin family does not lack lawyers, and the share transfer agreement was completed in just a few days under the witness of lawyers. My position in the Qin family's shareholdings is unshakable. After reconciling, my daughter and I moved back to our previous home, and I had the moving company discard all of our belongings and purchase new furniture. Joke, do I have to keep the bed they slept in at home? I won't humiliate myself like that. Ethan Su's concern for his daughter has been growing, and he even increased the frequency of his visits to the kindergarten. We have become a model family in the eyes of others, and everything seems to be going in a positive direction. Only I know, all of this has long been an illusion. The daughter is small in size, but very intelligent. She could already sense the division between me and Ethan Su in her little mind. I did not let my daughter become distant from him. My daughter is truly mine, and she cooperates with me effortlessly, as if we have an unspoken understanding. And so the time came to announce the brand ambassador. Perhaps Ethan Su had reached some kind of agreement with Wendy Xiang, and Wendy Xiang started to behave. This press conference was attended by many industry celebrities, and the number of reporters was countless, with live broadcasts on various social platforms. It is clear that the Qin family attaches great importance to Wendy Xiang, but what will happen after today is uncertain. I sat in the back row wearing a mask, quietly watching Ethan Su and Wendy Xiang sitting on the press release platform. The handsome man and the beautiful woman seem to make a perfect match. Those who have an affair must pay the price. Why should we victims choose to forgive everything? You two just watch how the high-rise building collapses today, and see how brutally the people sitting at the top fall. After the press conference went through the process of QA and ribbon cutting, it finally came to the presentation. Ethan Su was still in his mild manner. He stood up and explained to us the rare raw materials and the precise manufacturing process of this product. The next segment of the video presents the key selling points of our product. Please watch it with me. The people in the audience voiced their agreement one after another. Ethan Su is indeed young and promising, and he has managed this large company very efficiently. Yes, no wonder the old director felt at ease in handing over the company to him. I coldly laughed in my heart. Being young and promising just goes to start your own company. What are you doing in my company? I really don't know how you blinded yourself to look up to this Phoenix man. Who are the people in this video? Doesn't it look a lot like Ethan Su and Wendy Xiang? A sudden clap of thunder on the plane, murmurs and whispers arose from the audience below. Ethan Su finally realized something was wrong. This video was clearly his intimate video with Wendy Xiang. The person who took the video was very careful and did not reveal the specific details of the neighborhood, but Ethan Su still recognized at a glance that this was the house he had given to Wendy Xiang. He could no longer maintain the gentleness on his face, turned his head and furiously shouted at the staff, "Quickly, shut it, close. Who is responsible for this part, giving me such a big loophole?" His face was ferocious, like a wild dog that had been stepped on its tail and was howling in distress. Even if the screen is turned off in time, with all the major media reporters here today, and the live streaming online, this matter can no longer be concealed. They seem to be kissing. Goodness, no wonder Wendy Xiang, a minor celebrity, has such a grand production today, it seems. TSK. The poor Miss Chin. The company has handed over to a person who does not uphold marital virtue. The whispers from the audience gradually grew louder. Ethan Su's veins were throbbing with anger, his head was spinning, and his stomach was in pain. The secretary immediately came over to support him. He first thought it was Wendy Xiang's intentional act, but she was not that stupid. "Who is it?" The staff escorted Ethan Su and Wendy Xiang backstage responsibly. "It's fine. My purpose has been achieved. A month ago, I saw long hair that didn't belong to me on my bed, and I knew that another woman had been in this house. I did not choose to interrogate, but quietly put away my hair, installed a micro camera while Ethan Su was not at home, hired the most reliable paparazzi in the industry, and waited for the big fish to bite. During my time in school, I once held the top position in various competitions, and firmly occupied the first place in the finance college. If it were not for my daughter, I would not have neglected the company's affairs and allowed Ethan Su to gradually build his own power. What a useless person, someone who can't even manage their own lower body. How can they possibly manage a company? I had my subordinates at the company replace the video provided by the paparazzi, and the results were even better than I had anticipated. The current hot search has likely already exploded. I opened my phone and swiped to a chat interface. It's time to add some more fuel. The fire must be burning fiercely. Wendy Xiang is pregnant. Chin Group. Ethan Su had an affair with Wendy Xiang. Wendy Xiang killed Ethan Su's child. I let the marketing account release Wendy Xiang to do the video alone. There are no shortage of people chasing shadows online, and once connected, anyone will associate the child with Ethan Su. There were constant scolding voices online, but fortunately I had already prepared my parents in advance, otherwise this shocking incident would have made them sick with worry. I was really afraid that the elderly couple would get ill from the stress. My parents keep calling to comfort me, but I've instructed that no one is allowed to answer the phone except me. Ethan Su has always cared most about his own face over the years. Too bad we couldn't see him and Wendy Xiang biting like dogs. Ethan Su and Wendy Xiang were at another of Ethan Su's properties, but as soon as they walked in, Ethan Su completely disregarded the fact that Wendy Xiang was pregnant and slapped her twice. You hit me." Wendy Xiang covered her face in disbelief. "Fool! Is it you? I told you long ago that now is not the time. When the old master dies, the Chin family will be mine." Ethan Su's meticulously combed hair was now as disheveled as a bird's nest, and his current unkempt appearance no longer reflected any semblance of gentleness. "It wasn't me!" Wendy Xiang screamed out loud. Suddenly she clung to Ethan Su's legs like a drowning person grasping for a lifeline. It was Cynthia Chin. "It must be her. Back then it was clearly us who were mutually in love, yet you insisted on having me bring her to the basketball court to create a chance encounter. It was clearly her who snatched you. She is the mistress." Wendy Xiang seemed insane. Ethan Su naturally knew it was not her. Could it be his wife? Even if he did not want to admit it in his heart, he knew that Cynthia Chin was the prime suspect. I thought about it and decided to first call my father-in-law, but he didn't answer. Ethan Su called me on the phone. "Hello? What's the matter, my dear husband?" I laughed, with a hint of schadenfreude. Ethan Su gripped his stomach tightly. The agonizing pain came again. However, He did not think much about it, thinking it was a stomach illness caused by anger, unaware that death was already counting down. So it's you, Cynthia Cheen. Where have I wronged you that you have to resort to such despicable tactics? I sneered. The evil person actually reported first. Next week, go to the Civil Affairs Bureau, bring your documents to get divorced. Ethan Su fell silent for a moment, gritting his teeth. Cynthia Cheen, must we come to this? Don't forget, the company was in such a difficult situation after your father stepped down. It was me, Ethan Su, who drank drink after drink to keep the company afloat through cooperation. I remained silent. Good. The company is now on the right track, and you Cheens have started to grind the millstone and kill the donkey. He seems to have lost his mind, with beads of sweat the size of beans on his forehead due to the pain, and his heavy breathing can be felt through the receiver. Cynthia Cheen, please don't get divorced. Vivian Su is still so young. How can you bear to let her grow up without a father? I placed the phone on the table with the speakerphone on, and my daughter was playing in her playhouse. When she heard this, she came running over with a pitter-patter. Her small face was filled with indignation, and she cried out in a childlike voice over the phone, I don't want a father like you, and Mom doesn't want a husband like you either. You don't need me, and I don't need you either. Or is it that you can't bear to leave the position of the Cheen family's CEO? You're just a coward. Ethan Su cannot withstand my verbal provocation. Good. Leave it, Cynthia Cheen, don't regret it. I heard Wendy Xiong scream on the other end of the phone, and it seems that Ethan Su was so angry that he vomited blood. After this incident, he went back to play with his toys again. I couldn't help but laugh. Fortunately, my daughter has been well educated by me since she was young, and Ethan Su has missed many opportunities to cultivate a relationship with his daughter. Now, he is reaping the consequences of his own actions. Did you hear that, girl? Wendy Xiong's reputation in the entertainment industry is in shambles. The nickname of the third party will follow her for life. Ethan Su was also removed from the board of directors, because when he committed adultery and got divorced, our lawyer won the case, and Ethan Su had to leave with nothing. Along with him are the various talents that Ethan Su has cultivated in the Cheen family over the years, which has saved me the trouble of having to fire them one by one. He left in a flamboyant manner, boasting that without him, the Cheen family would be in disarray, and he eagerly awaited the moment when I would go bankrupt. I sincerely replied to him that whether I went bankrupt or not, it was none of his business. The one who is bankrupt is someone else. After all, a dead camel is bigger than a horse, and Ethan Su has accumulated a fair amount of property over the years, and the new company is thriving. Wendy Xiong often casually boasts to me about her pregnancy, and she is convinced that the baby she has been carrying for a few months is a boy. I told this good news to my former mother-in-law, who is Ethan Su's mother. When Ethan Su's mother heard this good news, she immediately came from the countryside, carrying fattened chickens and geese, and did not forget to belittle my former wife. I just said she is that non-egg-laying rooster. After all these years, baby, that young girl, it's time for her to give birth to a son for my son to carry on the family line. My son has talent, that's why he was able to marry Wendy Xiong, such a good wife. Come, have more soup, and help fatten up my chubby grandson. Ethan Su got married to Wendy Xiong shortly after divorcing me. After a series of offensive words, I felt like I was back when I first had my daughter. When I was pregnant, my mother-in-law was very kind to me, caring for me attentively. However, after my daughter was born, the old woman snorted and rushed back to the countryside, not forgetting to say that I was a chicken that couldn't lay eggs. This is all that Wendy Xiong told me. She seems quite proud that such a good man was snatched up by her. I don't know how Ethan Su brainwashed her like that. He can't really think his abilities are that strong, can he? The Cheen family is like a fish without a bicycle without Ethan Su. If it weren't for my support and his willingness to return to the family, could Ethan Su have ended up in that position? Now the clown is slowly unveiling the mask. I am the largest shareholder of the Cheen family and also the only daughter of my father. No one will object to me taking over the Cheen family, especially since Ethan Su's people have already followed him. The people in the company, and even the comments on social media, are all feeling sorry for me and fiercely condemning Ethan Su and Wendy Xiang. The first thing to do is to cancel Wendy Xiang's endorsement, stop the development of new products. This product was Ethan Su's own investment, and has nothing to do with Qin's profitability. He used Qin's resources to build his own brand. His true nature is well known to all. The second task is to promote and appoint talented people to fill vacant positions. We have been working hard, and Ethan Su's new company has also been active. His shortcomings were soon exposed, his poor people management and impatience dooming the company to a short life. But that's how this society is, the cake is only so big, and the more people there are to divide it, the less each person gets. I don't need to get involved. The companies that want to cooperate with the Qin family are all clever people, and the scandal of Ethan Su's company was soon exposed. Ethan Su Company's products are terrible. Ethan Su's company owes its employees their wages. Raw materials are cheap, and false propaganda. Ethan Su finally collapsed under the repeated blows. After going to the hospital, the doctor regretfully told him that he had late-stage stomach cancer and only had a few months to live. He could have lived a little longer, but Ethan Su, for the sake of his new company, engaged in various social engagements and drinking, which exacerbated his condition. Wendy Xiang was struck by lightning. Her 6-month belly was already quite evident. Ethan Su's mother also had an unbelieving look on her face. She rushed up and slapped Wendy Xiang hard. "It was you, you little vixen. It was you who killed my son. My son was originally in the Qin clan with great glory, but you little darling, seduced him. It was you who killed him." Wendy Xiang was so well taken care of by Ethan Su's mother during this period. She had long been spoiled, and how could she bear it now? The two of them fought fiercely, and as a result, Wendy Xiang's fetal movement was disturbed, and it was only when the doctor appeared that this drama was stopped. Listening to the private detective's account, I laughed until tears came to my eyes, and even had motivation to work late at night. By the time Ethan Su slowly regained consciousness, the world had already changed. The company went bankrupt, Wendy Xiang had a miscarriage, and the money was stolen. The last time a private detective told me, Wendy Xiang had already boarded a flight to leave the country. Ethan Su is completely bankrupt. How far has it gone? Even the hospital was unaffordable. Now he and his mother are cramped in a dim rental unit, which happens to be the same rental unit that Ethan Su rented when he had no money. Everything seems to have returned to the starting point. Some things can never be reversed, such as Ethan Su's deteriorating physical condition. I heard about him again in the hospital ward. The doctor informed me that the patient wanted to see me and my daughter one last time before he died. I didn't go. I sent my secretary to run an errand for me. I'm very busy now. The company has to meet very good partners every day. Why should I slow down my speed of making money for a dead person? I thought about it and still asked my daughter's opinion. My daughter has grown up a lot in this period. I told her that if she wants to see her father for the last time, she can go, and Mom won't stop her. The daughter shook her head with tears in her eyes, saying that her father had never liked her, and that she didn't want to see him. I hugged my daughter tightly, feeling pained. Turns out even children can feel things. Ethan Su often ignored her and even secretly asked her if she wanted a little brother, and she understood it all. Ethan Su died, quietly and silently in the hospital at night. His mother was the only one who cried for him. I raised my hand to wipe away a tear, and whispered, "Now, we're even." Ethan Su's funeral had few attendees, and after it was over, Ethan Su's mother returned to the countryside, where it is said she fell ill. Someone online discussed this topic, using Ethan Su as an example, and the matter of infidelity not having a good outcome was discussed for a time. The employees who followed Ethan Su came to see me. How could I have left such a big loophole in the company? One act of disloyalty is enough, no need for 100. Later I remarried. My husband is a very cultured person. He supports my career, and is willing to be my capable assistant. He said, "My wife is so capable, I'm very proud of her." His parents are very satisfied with him, and even their daughter is willing to call him dad. I am also very satisfied. I will not give up my beloved career for the sake of a man again. My company is thriving, and everything is developing in a positive direction. As for Wendy Seong, it is said that she is now working in the government in her old profession, but she was stripped naked on the street by her original partner and severely humiliated, and no further news has been received since this incident. The pain of past years has been washed away by wind and rain and time. Those who betrayed the heart have already paid the price they should have, and those who were hurt must also be brave to move forward and look ahead.